Help us hit our first 1,000 subscribers. Your support drives us to create even more wonderful stories. Thanks for being part of our journey.
In this video, my wife said she was staying late at the office again, until I showed up with her favorite coffee, and saw her kissing her boss behind the conference room glass. That moment shattered everything. But what I uncovered after that night made the betrayal look like just the tip of a much darker iceberg. Chapter 1: The Perfect Routine. They said routine was the silent killer of passion, but for Ethan, it was comfort. Every morning at 7:15, he'd kiss Claire on the forehead, watch her shuffle into her heels, and disappear out the door with a smile and a travel mug. He worked from home, freelance graphic designer, while she thrived in the fast-paced world of corporate marketing. Claire loved her job. She said it gave her purpose, a way to feel independent and powerful. Ethan admired that in her. Or maybe he admired the version of her that he thought she was. Their evenings were just as clockwork. Dinner by 7. A little Netflix. Claire usually fell asleep halfway through whatever they were watching, her head resting on Ethan's shoulder. It looked peaceful. It felt normal. But now, looking back, Ethan would swear there was something cold in that routine. Something hollow. The first red flag didn't wave. It whispered. One Tuesday evening, Claire texted that she'd be home late. Working on a pitch with Marcus' tight deadline. Ethan didn't question it. He cooked for one. She came home past 11, dropped her bag, and said she was too tired to talk. He noticed a perfume he hadn't smelled in years, not hers. The second time, it wasn't a whisper. It was silence. Ethan had called Claire at 8:45 p.m., wanting to ask if she wanted her favorite ramen. No answer. He called again. Then again. 4 calls. No response. She texted at midnight, "Sorry, totally swamped, just got out of the meeting, heading home now." No heart emoji. No love you. Just cold text on a blue screen. Ethan's stomach turned, but he ignored it. He told himself not to be paranoid. Claire was loyal. She had always been loyal. Right? But something inside him, something ancient and primal, stirred. A quiet voice he couldn't mute anymore. You need to see it for yourself. And so, without planning, without overthinking, Ethan made a decision that would shatter everything he believed about his marriage. You won't believe what he saw next. Keep watching, because in the next chapter, Ethan walks into his wife's office, and what he finds behind the glass wall will flip his entire world upside down. Chapter 2: Behind the Glass. The next morning, Ethan couldn't focus on work. Every click of his mouse felt disconnected. Every graphic he designed looked hollow, just like the way Claire kissed him goodbye, absent, rehearsed. By 11 a.m., something inside him snapped. He closed his laptop, grabbed his coat, and drove toward Claire's office downtown, without telling her. He didn't even know what he expected to find, maybe proof that he was wrong, that he was just being insecure. But his gut said otherwise. Her company, Bright Edge Marketing, was in one of those new glass towers with chrome elevators and fake plants in every corner. Ethan had been there once for a company Christmas party 2 years ago. Back when Claire clung to his arm like he was the center of her world. He walked into the lobby, faked a smile at the front desk, and said, "I'm just dropping off lunch for my wife." The receptionist nodded, distracted, and waved him toward the elevators. 7th floor, she muttered. The ride-up was slow. Too slow. Ethan's heart pounded harder with every ding. When the doors opened, he stepped into a sea of cubicles and half-glass offices. Claire's office was near the end, corner, bright, and stylish, just like her. And that's when he froze. Through the frosted panel next to the door, he could see shadows. 2 figures. Close. Too close. He stepped forward. The door was cracked open. He heard laughter, Claire's voice. But it wasn't the laugh she gave him. It was lighter, flirtier. And then another voice, deep, male. "Marcus." Ethan leaned in just enough to see through the small gap. Claire was leaning on her desk, her blouse slightly undone, giggling as Marcus tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Then, without hesitation, she kissed him. Not a peck. Not a mistake. A slow, deliberate kiss like she had kissed Ethan on their wedding night. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. His hands trembled. But he didn't barge in. He didn't scream. He quietly turned around, heart shattering into pieces, and walked back toward the elevator. But as he reached for the button, he noticed something strange. A woman sitting near the copy machine had been filming them. Discreetly. Phone half hidden behind a notebook. She caught Ethan's eye. Paused. Then slowly nodded at him, almost like she knew. What she did next would change everything. Don't stop now, because in the next chapter, the stranger approaches Ethan with footage that could destroy Claire's entire career, and expose a secret far deeper than an affair. Chapter 3, The Video That Changed Everything. Ethan stood frozen in the hallway, his mind racing. The woman with the phone got up and walked straight toward him. She was confident, calm, and her expression said more than words ever could. "Are you her husband?" she asked quietly, keeping her voice low so no one around would hear. Ethan just nodded, his throat dry, heart still hammering. She handed him a folded piece of paper with a QR code scribbled on it. "Watch this," she said, "and be careful who you trust in that office." Before he could ask her name or why she was doing this, she slipped past him and disappeared into another corridor. He looked down at the paper like it was a bomb. Something about it felt dangerous. But also like the only lifeline he had left. Back in his car, Ethan scanned the QR code. It led to a hidden Dropbox folder titled Claire_Marcus_CONF_room. He hit play. The video wasn't just the kiss. It was a series of clips, multiple days, different angles. Claire and Marcus alone in the conference room. Claire and Marcus leaving late at night, always together. Claire brushing her hand against his back, whispering things close to his ear. One clip was even worse. Claire was on a Zoom call with Ethan one afternoon, supposedly working from home. But in the background of the video, she was actually at the office, with Marcus. He recognized the same top she wore that day, the way she glanced at the camera, lying straight to his face. Ethan's hands trembled. His stomach twisted into knots. It wasn't just an affair, it was methodical. Calculated. Hidden in plain sight. But the worst part came at the end of the final clip. Claire and Marcus were talking, and she laughed, saying, "He has no idea I could tell him it's his baby, and he'd believe it." Ethan's world stopped. Baby? What baby? Claire wasn't pregnant, or was she? And if she was it even his? The room spun. His pulse roared in his ears. He felt like screaming, but no sound came out. Everything they built, 10 years of marriage, suddenly felt like fiction. And now he wasn't just questioning her loyalty. He was questioning reality. Stay right here, because in the next part, Ethan digs into Claire's past and uncovers something she's been hiding long before Marcus ever showed up. Chapter 4, The Lie Before the Lie. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. The image of Claire laughing with Marcus, the sound of her voice saying "I could tell him it's his baby," echoed in his head like a siren. He lay in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling, while Claire slept peacefully, completely unaware that her secret was crumbling. He needed answers. And not just about the affair. Something about that video made him feel like Claire had been hiding more than just Marcus. The next morning, after she left for work, Ethan opened the drawer where Claire kept her old phone. He remembered she used it until last year, around the time she started working with Marcus. It still had a passcode, but Ethan knew it by heart, 0907. Her birthday. The phone unlocked. Messages. Photos. Voice memos. He started scrolling through the photos, his heart pounding louder with every swipe. It was all innocent at first, selfies, vacation pics, brunches with friends. But then he found a hidden folder. Inside were dozens of pictures with a man he didn't recognize. Different from Marcus. Older. Wealthier looking. Some photos were from years ago. Some were recent. In one of them, Claire was wearing the same red dress she wore to Ethan's cousin's wedding last summer. But in the photo, she wasn't with Ethan. She was kissing this other man in what looked like a hotel suite. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He clicked on a video. Claire's voice came through, soft and giggling. The man said, "So, how long do we keep playing the happy wife act before you finally leave him?" Claire replied, "He's comfortable, that's all, he doesn't ask questions and he'll never know." This wasn't just an affair with Marcus. This was something deeper. Longer. Older. How many lies had she told? How many times had he believed them? Everything he thought he knew about his marriage was built on secrets. But there was one more thing that made his blood run cold. In one of the videos, Claire said something he hadn't expected at all. She whispered, "I can't wait for this to be over. Marcus is just a distraction. Once the money lands in my account, I'm done with all of them." All of them? Was she talking about Ethan? Marcus? Even the man in the video? Was this bigger than cheating? Was this something darker? Some kind of setup? A plan? Don't go anywhere, because in the next chapter, Ethan discovers what Claire has really been hiding, and it's something that could ruin more than just a marriage. Chapter 5, Her Second Life. Ethan sat in his car across the street from Claire's office, his hands gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. He hadn't gone to work. He hadn't slept. His mind was a battlefield of betrayal, anger, and confusion. He watched employees walk in and out of the modern glass building, hoping to catch a glimpse of Marcus. He needed to see the man who had been sleeping with his wife, who had been a pawn in whatever twisted game Claire was playing. But then, something happened that Ethan wasn't prepared for. Claire exited the building, not alone, but with the same older man from the hotel video. They didn't see him. They were laughing. Laughing like they didn't have a single secret to hide in the world. She touched the man's arm like she'd done it 100 times. And he kissed her temple like it was routine. Ethan's heart dropped into his stomach. Marcus wasn't the only affair. There were 2 different men. Maybe more. And none of them was Ethan. He started to record a video with his phone. He needed proof, not just for himself, but in case this all ended in court. In case Claire tried to twist the truth like she twisted everything else in their marriage. When Claire left with the older man in his black Range Rover, Ethan followed them. He kept a safe distance. The GPS showed they were heading toward the outskirts of town, into a neighborhood filled with massive houses behind tall gates. Not the kind of place Ethan or Claire could ever afford. They stopped at a mansion. She had a key. She let herself in. Ethan parked down the street and sat motionless, staring at the iron gate that had just closed behind the woman he thought he knew. Back at home that evening, Claire returned as if nothing had happened. She greeted Ethan with a kiss on the cheek and asked how his day was. He could barely answer. "I was thinking we should do a weekend getaway soon," she said casually, pouring herself a glass of wine. "Just the 2 of us." The audacity made Ethan nauseous. But he didn't confront her. Not yet. Because he had a new plan now. He was going to unravel the entire web of lies. He wasn't just going to expose Claire. He was going to find out what she was hiding at that house. And who that man really was. Because something told him. This wasn't just about cheating anymore. This was about something far more dangerous. And if you think you've figured out where this is going, trust me, the next chapter will change everything. Don't miss what Ethan discovers when he finally returns to that mansion. Chapter 6, The Locked Door. The next morning, Ethan called in sick again. But he wasn't sick. He was wide awake, buzzing with adrenaline and suspicion. He couldn't stop thinking about the mansion. The key. The man. And Claire's smile as she walked inside like she belonged there. This time, he waited until she left for work. Then he drove straight to that mansion, parked a block away, and approached on foot, dressed in neutral clothes to blend in. The house looked quiet. No cars in the driveway. The curtains were drawn tight. Ethan walked along the back fence until he found a spot where the security camera was covered in spiderwebs and pointed slightly off angle. He hopped over. His heart was pounding so loud he was sure someone would hear it. The sliding back door was locked, of course it was. But the side garage window wasn't. He used a piece of metal to pry it open and slipped inside, landing in a laundry room that smelled like lavender and money. Everything inside the house looked expensive and untouched. Marble counters. Glass furniture. Walls filled with tasteful abstract art. Ethan moved slowly, listening for any sign of life. It was dead silent. Then he saw it. A door at the end of the hallway. Steel frame. Keypad lock. He approached it and ran his fingers across the worn keypad. Why would a house like this have a vault room? Ethan wasn't a hacker, but he was desperate. He tried the most obvious codes first: Claire's birthday, their anniversary, the numbers from the license plate of the Range Rover. Nothing. He leaned his head against the cold metal. Then he heard a soft mechanical whir. The lock clicked. The door opened. No one had closed it properly after the last use. Ethan stepped inside. And what he found wasn't at all what he expected. No cash. No jewelry. No hard drives full of secrets. Just one thing. A single framed photo. Claire, Marcus, and the older man. Together. Smiling. Holding champagne glasses. Under the frame, a tiny gold plaque. To our future, the three of us. Ethan felt the room spinning. It wasn't just cheating. This was something else entirely. Something deeper. A lie so thick it wrapped around his entire marriage. And just then, he heard the sound of tires crunching on gravel. Someone was home. He had seconds to escape. But something told him he needed to see who it was. What Ethan sees next will blow the truth wide open. You won't believe who walks through that door. Keep watching, because the next chapter changes everything. Chapter 7: The Man Behind the Door. Ethan held his breath and crouched behind the half-open vault door, his heart hammering in his chest. The front door creaked open, slow and casual, like whoever entered had every reason to be there. Footsteps echoed against the marble floors, deliberate and unhurried. He peeked through the crack in the door. It wasn't Claire. It was Marcus. The man from the office. The man Claire swore she barely spoke to. He was alone, carrying a small leather bag and whistling a tune Ethan recognized. It was Claire's favorite lullaby, the one she used to sing when they tried for a baby. That tune hit Ethan like a punch to the gut. Marcus strolled into the kitchen, poured himself a drink, then walked straight toward the vault room. Ethan backed up. He had nowhere to go. No window. No back exit. Just four walls and one way out, the door Marcus was heading for. But just as Marcus reached for the handle, his phone rang. He stopped, sighed, and answered it. "Yeah, I'm here," Marcus said. He paused. Of course she doesn't know Ethan's still clueless. Ethan's blood ran cold. He leaned in closer, barely daring to breathe. Marcus laughed. "I told you, Claire's playing her part perfectly. He still thinks she's just working overtime. Once this deal is done, she's divorcing him." Ethan's world shattered in silence. But then, it got worse. Marcus said one more sentence that turned Ethan's stomach. "He has no idea his entire savings are already in our name." Ethan's eyes widened. His savings? All of them? He'd trusted Claire with everything, every password, every account. And now? He was being erased. As Ethan clenched his fists, ready to leap out and confront Marcus, a loud ding echoed from the hallway. The doorbell. Marcus cursed under his breath and turned around to answer it. Ethan saw his chance. He slipped out of the vault, down the hallway, and out through the garage like a ghost. But the look on his face? That wasn't fear anymore. It was fury. Betrayal was one thing. But stealing his life? That was war. And you won't believe what Ethan does next. The story takes a dark turn in the next part. Don't stop now, the most shocking twist is coming. Coming up next. Chapter 8: The Truth Behind the Numbers. Ethan sat in his car, engine off, breath fogging the windshield in the early morning chill. His laptop rested on his knees, screen glowing with spreadsheets, his accounts, Claire's, and a new one he'd never seen before. One registered under both their names, and Marcus's. He scrolled line after line, watching as transfer after transfer moved tens of thousands of dollars, his dollars, into that joint account. Some transactions were labeled as consulting fees, others as bonus payments, and one just bluntly said, vacation fund. But Ethan hadn't taken a vacation in 2 years. He gritted his teeth. It wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated financial murder. Claire had been draining him for months. The numbers told a story colder than words ever could. He clicked into Claire's email account, which, thanks to an old password she never changed, was still accessible. And that's when he saw the real horror. An email, dated just a week ago, with the subject: "Final phase before the split." His hand trembled as he opened it. Inside was a thread between Claire and Marcus. She wrote, "He's starting to ask questions, but once we close the final transfer, he'll be left with nothing. I booked the moving company already. I told him it's just for a friend. By the time he finds out, I'll be across the country." And then Marcus responded with just one line: "We're almost free. Make sure the backup plan is ready, in case he doesn't take it quietly." Ethan's heart pounded. They weren't just leaving him. They were preparing for war. He looked up into the rearview mirror and barely recognized the man staring back at him. This wasn't the Ethan who brought her coffee every morning. This was a man who had nothing to lose. And when a man has nothing left to lose, he becomes dangerous. Ethan closed the laptop and started the car. Not to run. Not to hide. But to end it. And what Ethan does next will flip everything upside down. The revenge is coming, but it's not the kind you expect. Keep watching, because the next part will leave you speechless. Coming up right now. Chapter 9, The Confrontation No One Saw Coming. Ethan didn't go home that night. Instead, he drove straight to Claire's office. Not to the front door, but to the underground parking garage where Marcus always left his car. The place was nearly empty, lit only by flickering fluorescent lights and the occasional hum of the building's machinery. He parked 2 rows behind Marcus's shiny black Tesla and waited in silence. Every second ticked louder than the last, like the countdown to something irreversible. At 11:13 p.m., headlights appeared. Claire's car. Ethan watched from the shadows as she stepped out, looking around nervously before walking to Marcus's car and pulling out a second key fob. She popped the trunk. Inside were 2 large suitcases. So it was true. She was leaving. And she was taking everything she could. But Ethan wasn't here to beg. He was here for answers. He stepped into the light. Claire froze. Her face went white. "Ethan," she gasped, clutching the keys like they could protect her. "I read everything," he said, voice steady, almost cold. "The emails, the transfers, the plan to disappear." Claire opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Then Marcus appeared, walking out of the elevator, adjusting his tie, completely unaware, until he saw Ethan. His face shifted from arrogance to panic in a heartbeat. Ethan stepped between them. "You were gonna gut me like I meant nothing," Ethan said, eyes fixed on Marcus. "You were gonna rob me, humiliate me, and vanish into the sunset together." Marcus raised a hand, as if to calm things. "Let's just talk like." "No," Ethan cut him off. "This isn't a negotiation." Then he pulled something out of his coat. "A flash drive." "I already sent a full report to the board," Ethan said. "Every dirty transaction, every fake invoice, every payment trail that links you both." Claire's breath caught. You're bluffing." Ethan smiled. "Am I?" At that exact moment, Claire's phone buzzed. She looked down. An email notification from her boss: "Claire, please call me urgently. We need to discuss something I just received from Ethan Miller." Her hands shook. Marcus tried to grab the phone, but Ethan had already turned his back. He walked away slowly, but the damage was done. By morning, both Claire and Marcus would be unemployed. But it wasn't just about revenge. It was about something much bigger. And in the final chapter, Ethan's master plan will unfold, revealing a twist even Claire never saw coming. The next part is where everything you thought you knew gets turned upside down. Stay with me, because the ending will leave you questioning everything. Keep watching, it all comes together in the next chapter. Chapter 10, The Final Checkmate. The next morning, the news exploded across every corner of the company's intranet. Marcus and Claire had been officially terminated. But that was only the surface. The deeper storm was just beginning. Ethan sat in the office conference room, not the one he used to work in, but the one at the head of the table, across from the CEO. Across from the board. A week ago, he was just another employee with a shattered marriage. Now, he was the whistleblower who saved the company from $1 million scandal. The board offered him a new position: head of internal integrity. But Ethan had one condition. "I'll take the role," he said calmly, "but only if you also approve my restructuring plan." The CEO raised an eyebrow. "Restructuring?" Ethan smiled. It was more than restructuring. It was replacing the rot from within, starting with a list of 10 people, each of whom helped Marcus cover his tracks. The board nodded unanimously. Later that evening, Ethan stood outside the old apartment he once shared with Claire. She opened the door, tears already brimming. "You destroyed us," she whispered. "No," Ethan replied. "You destroyed yourself, I just told the truth." She begged him not to go public with the other evidence, videos, recordings, screenshots. He didn't reply. Instead, he handed her a sealed envelope. Inside? A signed divorce agreement and full custody of the house, under one condition. She disappears. No contact. No messages. No social media. Just vanish. Claire broke down on the floor. But Ethan had already turned away. Outside, his phone buzzed. A message from someone named Leah. "Dinner still on tonight? I reserved the rooftop spot like you love." And there it was. The twist no one saw coming. Leah, the quiet assistant who'd worked beside Ethan for years, had seen everything. Supported him in silence. Waited. And now? Now she was walking into the restaurant with a soft smile, and Ethan, he was already there. Already moving on. Already rewriting the story. Not with revenge, but with power. So, who really won? And what would you have done if you were in Ethan's shoes? Let me know in the comments. And if you thought that was wild, just wait until you hear the next story.